Hope everyone's doing a little warm. So welcome to this meeting of the Wooddale Community Development Commission. My name is Jamie Ochoa and I'm the chairman for this committee. Can we please do a roll call?
Mr. Ochoa.
Here.
Ms. Rudnicki.
Here.
Mr. Parenti.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Ms. Zadko.
Here.
Mr. Tao.
Here.
And Mr. Babelis is absent.
The CDC has a quorum present. Business items. We need a motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 16, 2024.
Motion.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed signify by stating no. The motion carries. The minutes are approved. Moving on to our public hearings. Mr. Conway, as chairman, I request that you serve as the public hearing facilitator.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. For our public hearings, all testimony will be given oath at the hearing. There'll be an opportunity for the public to offer testimony and comment. Following the public hearing, the CDC's deliberations will be open to the public in the sense that they are invited to listen and to watch. The public, however, may not speak during our deliberations. We ask that the applicants here tonight give specific evidence to demonstrate that the proposal meets the standards for approval for the request. The burden is on the applicant to prove the case. Additionally, city staff will provide a general description of the proposal followed by their analysis. With respect to others who wish to speak, you may give an opinion or present a specific evidence as to why you believe the applicant meets or fails to meet the standards for the request. Finally, we'll strictly adhere to the schedule prepared for tonight's meeting. However, those wishing to submit evidence and testimony will be afforded sufficient time within which to do so. Whether you're a member of the public wishing to make a statement for the record or a witness testifying on behalf of the applicant, you will be placed under oath, and please begin by stating your name and address. You'll be subject to questions by the Community Development Commission and potential cross-examination by the applicant. To allow as many people as possible to be heard, we request that you limit your remarks to 5 minutes. If additional time is needed, the hearing will be continued until the next available hearing date. For anybody who's going to provide testimony other than staff, we just ask that you approach the podium over here and speak directly into the microphone because the meeting is being recorded. Okay, let's call our tonight's one and only matter. It is CDC 2025-0001. This case involves an application filed by the City of Wooddale for a special use for major utilities and public service facilities, site plan review, and zoning variations to enable construction of a new water tower on the city-owned vacant property located at 310 East Irving Park Road. Staff, can you please indicate when notice of the hearing was published and whether you had the certificate of publication from the newspaper?
Would you raise your right hand, please, and state your name and address?
Gosha Pocheja, 404 North Wooddale Road, Wooddale, Illinois.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the public hearing notice for our meeting tonight was published in Daily Herald on January 3rd. We also placed a public hearing sign at the subject property, and mailed notices were sent out to property owners within 250 feet of the subject property.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Do we have anybody representing the applicant here tonight? Mr. Lang, good to see you. Why don't you take a stand by the podium, please.
And please state your name and address, Mr. Lang.
Alan Lang, 404 North Wooddale Road, Wooddale, Illinois.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lang, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here. Good to see everyone. Good evening, and thank you. My name is Alan Lang. I'm the Director of Public Works for the city. Tonight, as Attorney Conway said, we are requesting a special use for major utility and public service facility, site plan review, and zoning variations to construct a new water tower. Bit of background, the city operates 2 elevated storage tanks, otherwise referred to as water towers. The one located at the North Wastewater Treatment Plant at 269 West Irving Park Road was constructed in the 1960s when the population of Wooddale was less than half of what it is today. It's at only 100,000 gallon capacity. It provides limited operational support to us and doesn't provide much in the way of available capacity for future development within the city. As such, the city desires to construct a new, larger water tower that improves our operational efficiency and reliability, allows us to better respond to emergency situations, and supports future development throughout the city. So staff set about identifying eligible locations for the new tower and using a certain set of criteria. Those being, the tower has to be located on the lower pressure zone, which is essentially the southern half of town. It ideally would be located in an area of high usage so that the water turns over in the tank more frequently and therefore does not lead to any water quality issues within the tank. It needs ready access to an adequately sized transmission main. Preferably, it would be on property that's already owned by the city, so we wouldn't have to purchase anything new. And then there's also several constructability issues that we need to keep in mind, such as staging area, accessibility and security of the site, the elevation of the site and thereby the tower, its proximity to the airport. We don't want to be building in any floodplains. And then, of course, its impact to nearby residents. So with these criteria, staff identified 4 possible suitable locations for the tower, with 310 East Irving Park Road being the preferred location. These locations were presented to the Public Works Committee last year, and the Public Works Committee and the City Council approved a design agreement with H.R. Green to design the water tower at 310 East Irving Park Road. The proposed schedule, we hope to award the project this spring. Contractor availability and material lead times will probably mean that we start construction late this year at the earliest, but probably more likely early next year. Approximately 15 months for construction puts the completion date in mid-2027, after which time the existing tower would be taken down. Again, our zoning request, special use for the utility, site plan review, and variations for the building height, the lot width, and the area. And looking at the site plan, the tower would be constructed at the very southern edge of the property, outside of the metro right-of-way and meeting all the necessary property line setbacks. You see there's a parking pad for city vehicles and contractor vehicles and equipment to utilize, which is fenced in a 6-foot-high Trex fence. It is screened on the north side by landscaping, and we're proposing to install 5 shade trees on the northern green space of the parcel. The tower height, which we're seeking a variance for, is dictated by the system operating pressure as well as the elevation of the site. The proposed tower is going to be 143.6 feet, which is approximately 15 feet shorter than the existing tower at the North Treatment Plant. Because of the proximity to the airport, we have to get the FAA's approval, which we're in the process of now. Given that this is a light industrial surrounding area, there's minimal impact to the adjacent properties. The nearest residence is south of the Metro tracks at Central and Irving, so not a great impact to residents. It was the least impactful to residents of the 4 sites that we identified. Separate from this project, but also somewhat related, the city is looking to install a traffic signal at Irving Park Road and Central Avenue to promote a safe crossing for vehicles and pedestrians and help spur economic development within this area. As part of this, the city is proposing to extend Central Avenue to the south, which would require that we dedicate a portion of this parcel as right-of-way, which is the need for the lot width variance as well as the area. You can see this green portion here would be the portion of the lot that is dedicated as right-of-way. And that is really the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Does any member of the CDC have a question for Mr. Lang?
I'll go first. Can you clarify, we have 2, and are we decommissioning 1 and putting up a new one?
Correct.
And the new one is 100K gallons or more?
So the one that we are replacing is 100,000 gallons. We're going to replace it with a 750,000 gallons. That would give us a total of 1.25 million gallons in the air, which is slightly more than our average day's usage.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Lang?
What's on the new one? What's the old ones are 1960s, if I heard you correctly. What's that? 74, 75 years now. What's the lifespan of this new one that we're putting up?
So with proper maintenance, we expect them to last anywhere from 75 to 100 years. The need to replace this one is more due to the limited capacity of it than its condition. It does need to get painted if we're going to keep it, which kind of spurred this whole process of, well, if we're going to do something to it, we may as well reconstruct it now. But 75 to 100 years is typical for lifespan for these kinds of structures.
Since we're talking about lifespan, can I use this opportunity? Can you educate us, maybe here on the board a little bit more? What kind of inspections and maintenance is normally done on a water tower?
Sure. So we do, every 2 years, we'll inspect the tower for the paint, the corrosion, and just the structural integrity of it, of the steel exterior. Aside that, we hire a contractor for. They also have drone inspections now that they can send a drone up to get the bowl at the top, so you don't have to get all the way up there by the hatch, which is a little less concerning. So we inspect these biannually.
Thank you. With regards to the security, with the 2 current towers that we have, has there been any reports of any kind of breaches or vandalism?
Luckily, no.
That's great. Great to hear.
How long is the construction time?
Approximately 15 months.
6 months?
15.
16 months? Okay, thank you.
Does the old one come down before the new one's built, or you wait till the new one's completed?
We would wait until the new tower is constructed before we decommission the old tower.
I guess, is there future plans in the next 5 years to take down the other old one?
No, the Tower 2, which is on the north side of town in the industrial area, is much newer than Tower 1, and it's an adequate size. It's 500,000 gallons. So there's no plans to take that down. We plan on painting it probably within the next 5 years, but that's it.
Yeah.
The stoplight, you said you're gonna put a stoplight there. Is that gonna be installed before or after construction?
So that stoplight would go to construction this coming summer. So that would be before the construction of the tower. We're nearing approvals for that from IDOT. So that's just the way it progresses, is that worked out that was going to be constructed first. Material lead time, steel, is probably 12 months or more out. So we probably want to begin construction on this tower until next year.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Lang? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Lang.
Thank you.
Okay, and does staff have any further presentation?
Yes, we do,
Okay.
although this was very thorough, so a lot of it will be very similar, but I will do my best just to run through the presentation. Thank you. All right, so just a very quick look at the location map. We're all very familiar with it. We're at the intersection of Central and Irving Park Road. The property is on the south side of Irving Park Road, so we're generally located on the eastern side of the town. In terms of zoning, the property is really surrounded by other commercial properties. The subject property is zone TCB, which is Town Center Business District. We have C2A directly to the east of the subject property, which is our commercial district. There's some industrial uses in that district as well. We have C2 regional commercial on the north, and also TCB. Directly adjacent to the south of the property are the Metra train tracks. And then directly to the south, we do have some residential RG, which is our multifamily residential, but as you will notice, there aren't any residential units directly there. The townhouses are more towards the west there. And then we have C3, which is also our service district, commercial industrial district, and then that's when the residential units start. The existing conditions, the property is about 0.4 acres in size. It is city-owned. There is a little bit of a parking surface that remains on site. There used to be a commercial building on site with a parking lot. The building has been demolished, and then the intent of this parking service is to be removed once the construction of the tower is completed. That's where the landscaping will go. The proposed conditions, as it was outlined earlier, we do have the water tower that's adjacent, that's located more towards the south of the property. There is a 25-foot setback from the rear of the property. We do have a parking pad that will be screened. There is a fence that surrounds the property. Some of the fencing is existing, some will be new composite fencing that will be installed. We do have a row of arborvitae, so evergreens, that will be directly adjacent to the north just to provide some screening of the base. And then we do have shade trees that will be planted throughout the site to meet our site perimeter landscaping requirements under zoning. The parking pad will be accessible via gate, so this will be only for employees or contractors working on the site. And there's just 3 spaces available here. In terms of the zoning request, so the meeting for, the reason for the meeting tonight, we do require, our UDO stipulates that any use for a major utility public service such as a water tower would be, requires a special use approval in the TCB zoning district. So the very first request that's in front of CDC is the special use request. Any type of special use request that goes through zoning review also requires site plan review. That's something that was done by staff and is addressed in the staff memo. And then we have the zoning variations. One of the zoning variations is for the height. That is specifically related to the water tower. And then we also have 2 variations related to the site itself that are driven by the fact that there will be additional improvements adjacent to the site. And that's for the intersection of Irving Park Road and Central. So the height, as it was covered by Director Lang, the maximum permitted height is 50 feet in the TCB zoning district. The request in the memo was up to 150 feet. The actual tower will be a little bit less. I think we're less than 144 feet in height. FAA approval will be required because of the proximity to the airport, as mentioned, and is already in the process. So this will be something that is done before permit approval on the tower itself. The other 2 zoning requests are driven by the fact that there will be a separate project, so those are those intersection improvements. And in order to accommodate those improvements, part of the property will have to be dedicated to a city right-of-way, and then when we looked at what's going to be remaining of the property, it will not meet the lot width. The lot width is measured not at the front property line, but per the UDO, we actually have to take a line that is at the building line. So in this case, it's 60 feet away from the front property line. So over here, we're approximately 63 feet in width, where 100 is required. And then we also have a reduction in the lot area. Once again, both of these requests are strictly driven by the fact that part of the property will be dedicated for those needed public improvements. In terms of comprehensive plan, the subject property is designated as retail commercial in the future land use plan in our comprehensive plan. Public service use is really consistent with the commercial occupation. There will be employees servicing the site. There's not going to be a lot of traffic that gets generated because of this use, and really it's a public service that will serve the existing commercial businesses, industrial businesses, and residents throughout. There are multiple goals and objectives that are being addressed by this proposal. They're outlined more in the memo, but we have redevelopment of vacant property and also improvements to city services. In terms of public comments, prior to the CDC meeting tonight, I did receive 1 phone call. It was just a resident who received a notice, and she was just curious about the proximity of her a particular property, and she was more than 1,000 feet away, and she really didn't have any concerns. Staff recommends that CDC recommend approval to City Council. We find that this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the UDO. And what's outlined on the screen and also in the memo are just typical conditions that we typically place on any special use approvals. Those are that the actual final project has to be consistent with the staff memo and the testimony presented tonight. And then we will also require a final engineering approval for the permitting, which is typical for any project that goes through. And that completes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any CDC member have a question for staff?
I do. Can you tell us about funding and if you have any concerns? How's this project going to be funded?
So maybe Alan can speak to that, but technically the request in front of CDC today is just the special use approval, so funding is not something that's part of the consideration for tonight.
If you're
Mr.
curious,
Lang?
I can answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
So because the project supports the industrial district as well, it's able to be funded with TIF funds completely.
So no concerns.
Not from our end, no.
Anybody else have a question for staff?
Are there any warranties or guarantees on this construction?
So typical for our projects, we will require a minimum of 1 year material and labor warranty, and I imagine that's what's going to be written into the specs for this project as well.
Do you know the approximate cost?
I believe we have it at 4 million? 4 million.
Okay, thank you.
On the remainder of the property, I know that originally you were looking at for future use. Are the tree placements, the larger trees, going to be set in a way where you have that land available for, you don't have to take the trees down to, you're just using them to block the site more so? So if they leave open space where you have that center underneath the 3 trees and above the 2, if you opened up that land a little bit more so you have majority of use of that property, remaining property for future, might be something to entertain.
Want me to speak on that?
If you could, because I know there's something that was considered before, so Alan.
Sure, so not knowing what the future use of this, that's ultimately going to be up to the city council, but we did try to push the trees, the majority of them, up to the northern portion, closer to the right-of-way, to leave open space, so we wouldn't have to remove healthy trees otherwise when we go to make improvements on here. We wanted to provide trees around the perimeter as well, but we weren't able to fit any within the area around the tank on the south side, so that's the reason we added 2 more trees kind of in the middle of the property. So I can't say for sure whatever this property is going to be in the future, but we try to take that into consideration when we added the trees.
Okay. Any other questions for staff or for Mr. Lang? All right, great. Thank you very much. Is there any member of the public here tonight who wishes to make a statement or have a question? If so, okay, thank you very much. Ma'am, can you please approach the podium?
Would you state your name and address, please?
Carrie Savickas, 229 North Central in Wooddale.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help
Yes.
you God.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I was very surprised to receive this letter, considering about 2 years ago, I went through many meetings here about the change of the zoning for my building at 229. It was an industrial building for 65 years plus, and then went through this, big ordeal for you guys to get it to a C2A. My understanding was this whole idea is because you wanted to bring in commercial. My understanding too is one of the issues is parking. So I want to know exactly, several questions actually. First, Gosha, you clarified it is now C2A east of this property. okay? Whereas earlier you mentioned light industrial. Yes, we can do light manufacturing in that building, but that has been a real problem for me to sell that property because of the change of the zoning. I just want you to know that and have it on record. I thought it was very interesting to pick this property to put a water tank, and you brought up the fact you're dealing with FAA. My father, who's owned this property and owned many properties in Wooddale, had always said, and he built the 320 property, which is next to this, we don't own it any longer, that because of the airport, you could only have there was a height restriction because of planes landing. So granted, new runways, things like that, I understand. I understand that is going to take some time. I don't know where you're at in the process of that. But I have the questions. Now, you mentioned about the size of the tank and that. You have vacant land that I believe Wooddale bought across the street on Irving. Is there any particular reason why you're not looking at that property to build this tank?
So what we'll do, ma'am, is we'll take your questions, okay? We'll get those on the record, and then we'll call Mr. Lang back up, okay?
Are you expecting this project to fit on the current lot that you have for this project? Because, as I say, my property is right next door, and I know if you would, Gosha, could you put that picture back where you have it, where Central is coming through? Where you see that? Can I come over here and just show you? So we have this land here, and we have the easeway through, okay? Where are you putting your addition to put Central through? I think you had a picture where you had it colorized. I'd like to see that. I didn't have my glasses, so I couldn't see it. So, okay, so this is the lot. This is is this considered your new Central Avenue that's gonna be built on your lot that you have? Okay, so you're not going to be looking to take land from us, from the 320 building or the 229 property, to do that project?
So, again, ma'am, what we'll do,
Yeah.
just because I want to get all your questions, and then we'll do it.
You're right.
Yeah.
So these are the questions that I have. Okay. One of my questions is, when was it going to start and finish? And you answered that question. How will the construction affect surrounding properties, which is mine and the 320 building, you know, the most? I'm not sure about the people on the other side. Okay, and then, you know, I was wondering about the downtown area that you guys wanted, which is what I spent time here a couple of years ago. But I think that's what you're talking about when you're asking the question about those trees. If that's gonna be a flexible idea in the future to make that parking, I don't know if that's your thought. So those are my questions, my concerns. I do have a very interested party on the property. I let them know about this meeting because it will affect them. I don't know if they're here or not. I'm not sure. I don't really know them. But if this deal doesn't go through, it is definitely going to affect me. And so it is important to understand what your thoughts are, especially with Central, bringing Central through. So those are my questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Lang, if you could just take the podium. I'll just kind of go through these, and then, you know, either staff or Mr. Lang, if you can address these. I think one of the questions was, why was this particular site chosen over others? I don't know.
Sure, so as far as specifically stated, the parcels that are directly across the street on the north side of Irving, it was my understanding that those lots were to be consolidated, and the goal was to have a larger business be taken there, so it wasn't a suitable site for the tower in that instance.
Okay. I think one of the other questions was will the tank entirely fit on the parcel?
So the tank will fit entirely on the parcel. If you could stay on that one, Gosha.
Oh, stay on it, okay.
Yep, that one. So the tank will fit entirely within the parcel, and we do meet all the necessary side yard and rear yard setbacks. The portion on your property that you see is the orangish color there. That would be a temporary easement we would be looking for in order for the crane to operate above it. And then to serve the road, which is separate from this request, but also impacts the lot width and lot area, which is why we've included it. We would be looking for that small red portion as right-of-way. So, Gosha, if you wouldn't mind going back to my presentation, it has kind of a depiction of the roadway.
What it's gonna look like.
Yeah, that one. So we're proposing that Central Avenue to the south only come to where the existing alley is to provide access in and out of that alley for the time being. We did propose to the city council that the remaining space on the north end of the lot be used potentially as public parking, or if we were to impact your property with a temporary easement or otherwise, to be used for parking for your property as well. But that did not get approved as of yet, but that is still a possibility for the future.
Okay. And then I think another question was, how will the construction affect the surrounding properties?
Minimally, aside from that temporary easement that would be needed in order to operate the crane. But a majority of the staging area, all of the staging area, in fact, is located within the parcel itself.
Okay.
And this is going to take a year?
From what I understand, 15 to 18 months?
15 to 18 months.
15 to 18 months is the anticipated duration of construction. Beginning, like I said, most likely late 2025, early 2026.
Okay. Is there any other questions that the CDC has of staff or Mr. Lang based on the follow-up answers?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public? Yes, sir, please approach the podium.
Would you raise your right hand and state your name and address, please?
My name is Brad Townsend, resident at 196 North Central Avenue here in Wooddale.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, so help me God. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate getting that notice. I had heard about a water tower, but I didn't know where it was going, because I think one of the other committees of the, maybe it was the Public Works Committee or one of the others, had gone over this some time ago. But I'm glad that you sent out notice to those of us in the neighborhood to the south. So I'm living that, and my wife and I, we live in that first house, which is just on Central Avenue, south of the basin, south of the railroad tracks. So we can see that property pretty clearly, line of sight from where we're at. So tonight, my basic reason for coming here, it was to, and is to, just express some concern about the visual impact on the neighborhood. I don't really have any questions or concerns about the need for it. Public Works Director Lang explained that, and that makes sense to me, based on my experience with these kind of things as well. But so, like during the daytime, I saw that in the, it's not, I don't think it's on this image here, but on one of the diagram images that you had posted on the website, and you did show here earlier. You show the, and you mentioned, the senior planner mentioned the location of landscaping, that kind of thing. There is no landscaping to buffer the view at ground line of sight, looking from the south north. So I guess we just look right at that tower and whatever stuff is going on there. And I think that's a detriment to our enjoyment of that neighborhood. And I'm hoping that there will be consideration given to that. The city's always been good about considering our neighborhood view of the area. There was a lot of good work that Public Works and others and the engineers did on that basin. So I'm just asking that, hey, let's see if there's maybe some way that there can be a buffer put there on the south side as well, if you have enough room to do that. I think you probably could. So that would help, especially during the daytime. So that's number one. And then number two, as far as nighttime, I didn't hear anything tonight addressing the question of, like, what's the color of this tower? Is there going to be lighting on this tower? Is this going to be a great big, basically, entryway sign to the city of Wooddale, or what? Because this is going to be 15 stories tall, and there is such a thing as light pollution. And we've had some issues on that we addressed years ago with a lot that's right next to where we live, because there is an industrial residential line there that exists, and we all live in peace there now. It's all fine, but there was a time when there was issues with lighting. So I'm just bringing that up as a concern, and if anybody can address that as well, I would appreciate it. So it's really just, what's it going to look like? How's it going to affect us? And I just don't want any detrimental effect on our enjoyment or even the value of our properties because of the tower being created that didn't exist there before. That's my full concerns.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lang, would you like to address some of the questions that were raised?
Absolutely, thank you, and thank you for the questions. I'm very glad you guys showed up. So as far as the ground screening, I'm happy to look at options for that southern property line. Right now, there's an existing chain link fence along the Metro right-of-way, and I think there's some scrub brush there, maybe some cattails and such. We definitely have no issue with adding additional screening on that side if that's a concern. I appreciate that input. As far as the tower, the appearance, the base bid, we're proposing just a basic white for the tower, and then our city branded logo and lettering on two sides of it. As you said, it's kind of a billboard for the city. Nothing terribly exciting, but just aesthetically pleasing, I think. And then there's going to be two alternates that we're proposing. One is adding more colors, and then we're still trying to consider the other one. We'll probably have some input from council on that one as well. The other question was lighting. The only lighting on the tower will be the FAA beacon at the top of it, which is a red flashing light to alert the planes, which is a requirement, and then a wall pack on the hatch door on the north side of the tower. So other than that, it will not be lit at all, I don't believe. At least we're not proposing it as of now. Was there any other questions that I missed?
I believe that's it.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You know the fabric fences that were up at the Topgolf go relatively high?
I believe so, yes.
Something like that, could something like that be usable to go to a certain height where it would not really affect airflow and things like that, but block out visually a portion of the tower?
We would have to look into that. Obviously, we don't want to do any work within the Metro right-of-way. They won't allow us to do any work within the Metro right-of-way, and we can't impact the bowl of the tower with the height, which would be essentially blocking is the stem of the tower, but we can certainly look into that.
Okay. Are there any other questions that CDC members have for staff or Mr. Lang?
There'll be communication towers on it too? Or
Antennas, cellular antennas. Yeah, the same franchisees that we have on our current tower would most likely be transferred over to the new tower. So around the stem, there would be a series of antenna and conduit that we require certain aesthetics that they blend in with the tower so they're not noticeable.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, go ahead. Please approach.
Okay, so now I'm hearing that we're going to have a crane on the property. And how long do you think the crane is going to be there? Because it is a business that runs out of 229, and the potential buyer is a business also. And they're going to have deliveries like I have deliveries. So I'm just wondering if there's, you know, how big is the crane? That would be one thing, because I'm going to have to report this back. Is this recorded by chance?
Yes.
Okay, so they can watch it on YouTube
Absolutely.
or whatever?
Mhm.
Okay. So that would be one question, is how big of a crane this would be. And like I asked, how long, and we've sort of talked about that. And again, it might be just because there's a lot of information I'm taking in. When you're talking about the development of the new central going through, would it be going past the water tower, or is it just going to the alley and turning? Okay, so it would be really just coming down and then turning. How many lanes is that gonna be? Also, is Central gonna be first, or is that gonna be after? And you may have already answered that question when you were giving all the information in the beginning. Yeah, so, and you were talking about an easement on our property, I believe, a small easement. Is that something we're gonna get paid for? Or, you know, gotta look at that, so. I think right now that'll be all the questions. But today's meeting, my understanding is that you're just trying to get the okay to use this property, change what the use is for a water tower. And I guess, and again, you guys do your jobs daily, so you know what you're looking for. I'm just really surprised that it's there and not someplace else in all of Wooddale, that this water tower can't be built. So those are the rest of my questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Lang, do you have any follow-up?
Sure. As far as why we selected this site, those criteria that I listed earlier, this was the only one that kind of checked every single box for us, so it was the most logical site for us. We did have a plan B in case the city council didn't want to go in that direction, but they did approve the design for this location. As far as Central Avenue, yes, it's only proposed to go to the alleyway for now. The way they have it designed here is one lane going southbound, and then a separate turn lane and pass-through lane going northbound, so 3 lanes total. We would need an easement, as I said, from you, a temporary easement for the construction and a small portion of right-of-way, which we will be, it's in the appraisal process right now, and we'll be reaching out to you shortly for that. You and I can chat afterwards on a specific of that. And then the other question, I believe,
The crane.
I know I'm missing one. The crane, yes. I can't give any specifics on the height of the crane or the duration that it'll be out there. I don't know, how high they'll use scaffolding for now, but the crane has to be able to reach a height of 145 feet at least. So I can't give any specifics on that. The materials and methods are always up to the contractor, but I'm happy to provide that information as I get it.
Yeah, that's gonna be important. And I mean, like, how much room does it take?
So the crane will be located on the parcel itself,
Okay.
but they're concerned about the boom operating over other properties as it lifts the materials
Right.
into place. So that's the need for the temporary easement.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, any further questions of the CDC? All right, is there any other member of the public here tonight who has a question or a statement or wishes to speak? All right, last call for questions before we entertain a motion to close the public hearing portion. All right, so I'll just need a motion to close the public hearing. After we do that motion, then we go into our deliberation portion. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right,
Was that Mr. Tao?
Mr. Tao made the motion.
Okay.
Okay, and can we have a roll call on that motion?
Mr. Ochoa?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes,
Mr. Parenti?
Yes.
Mr. Tao?
Yes.
And Ms. Rudnicki?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. The public hearing portion is closed. Now we're entering into our deliberation portion. Is there any member of the CDC who has any comments, statements, any views that they wish to express on the applicant's request? Okay, no further comments on the applicant's request. What we'll do now is we'll move to the voting portion. And as I usually do, I'll make a recommended motion. It's very lengthy. But again, remember, if you are in favor of recommending the request to City Council, you would vote yes. If you are not in favor of recommending the request to council, you would vote no. Okay, so here's the recommended motion. Based on the submitted petition and the testimony presented, the proposed special use for major utilities and public service facilities, site plan review, and zoning variations meet the standards of approval and are consistent with the UDO and comprehensive plan. And therefore, I move that the Community Development Commission adopt the findings of fact included within the staff memo dated January 20th, 2025, as the findings of the Community Development Commission, and recommend to the City Council approval of the special use for major utilities and public service facilities, site plan review, and zoning variations to increase the building height from 50 feet to 150 feet, reduce lot width from 100 feet to approximately 63 feet, and reduce the lot area from 20,000 square feet to approximately 19,042 square feet to enable construction of a new water tower and public improvements at 310 East Irving Park Road and case number CDC 2025-0001 with the following conditions. 1, the special uses, zoning variations, and site plan shall substantially conform to the staff memo dated January 20th, 2025, and the attached exhibits, except as such plans may be modified to meet the city code requirements. Where deviations to the codes have not been requested as part of this approval, the existing codes must be met as applicable at the time of permit application. Number 2, final engineering approval must be granted prior to the issuance of a building permit. Okay, that is the recommended motion. Any member can say so moved.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Ochoa?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Pardon me. Mr. Tao?
Yes.
Mr. Parenti?
Yes.
And Ms. Rudnicki?
Yes.
And I think we have Ms. Satsko?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Ms. Zatko?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. The recommendation of the CDC to the City Council will be to recommend the applicant's request. This will now proceed to the PZB committee. And do we have any idea, Gosha, when that might occur?
I believe tentatively we're scheduled for February 6th, but I will double check.
Okay.
Oh, is it 13? I'm sorry, February 13th.
Okay, so tentatively February 13th to PZB, and then from there it would move on to City Council consideration. Okay, so that will conclude tonight's hearing. And Mr. Chairman, I will cede the floor back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Is there any report from staff?
I don't really have a report. I just wanted to actually share with everyone the meeting dates for the 2025 calendar year. I think I have them on a PowerPoint presentation. There you go. So these are the scheduled meeting dates. Typically, we do meet on the third Monday of the month. There are some exceptions. The one that's coming up actually in February, because the third Monday is a holiday, so we usually push it the one day. There's still a possibility of special call meetings. We've done those in the past. Sometimes if there's special petitions or so on, we make sure that we can get a quorum, and we will reach out. But for now, these are the dates that we're anticipating meetings in 2025.
Thank you, Gosha. We need a motion. With that, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those
Yes.
opposed signify by stating no. The motion carries. This meeting's adjourned.